What's going on, everybody? Jonathan here to do a quick update on the DoorDash pay model. So you've probably been seeing a lot of videos on this lately, and there's a lot of news surrounding it. I'm gonna go through this, hit all the main points, and kind of simplify it for you. So in the letter that I got from Tony, there are 4 big points. The first point is that their 2017 pay model included transparency and consistency for driver pay. The second point is that they want to serve Dashers as well as their consumers. The third point, and probably the biggest one here that everyone's talking about, is the fact that their new pay model going forward is going to have driver tips separate from the DoorDash contribution to driver pay. And the last big point of the letter, it's kind of just some fluff that was thrown in there at the end, and it basically says that DoorDash wants to get 1% better every single day. So here's a brief, probably oversimplified synopsis of how the current DoorDash pay model is working. For every delivery that you take, there is a $1 delivery pay. Now, when an order pops up in the app, you'll see something like $4.50 payout, maybe a $6.50 payout, whatever it is, that's your minimum guarantee for that delivery. So on these orders, DoorDash's contribution is guaranteeing that you're making above that $1 delivery pay. Basically, they're subsidizing between that $5.50 and $6.50, whatever it is, they will make that payment if need be. But most of the time, there is a customer tip. So if the customer does tip, DoorDash will use that tip to pay the difference between that $6.50 or $5.50 minimum payout that you're getting and the actual $1 delivery pay that you're receiving. So in other words, DoorDash only has to pay you $1 from the total delivery fee that they got from the customer, and the rest of that is paid out in tips. And occasionally after the order, you'll see something like above the order guarantee, and you'll get a tip that actually goes beyond what you were expecting above that minimum guarantee. And we don't really know, there's not a lot of transparency, and there's no way of knowing if every time a tip comes through that it is above that minimum guarantee, if you're seeing that, or if they're just doing it every now and then to kind of keep you thinking that, DoorDash is giving you all of those tips. We don't really know because there's not a lot of transparency there. So here are some predictions, and it's really impossible to tell where this is going, but you try and be optimistic because you'd like to think that drivers are going to get paid better, and this is really going to be helpful, and hopefully it is. Hopefully the new pay model is more beneficial to drivers and you get paid more for every single delivery. But potentially this could look a lot more like Postmates, where your minimum guarantee is lower, but you have more upside because you're always keeping 100% of tips. It's tough to say whether on average Postmates payouts are better looking at tips over like 100 orders, or if having that stable minimum pay through DoorDash is better for drivers. A lot of drivers get discouraged by the Postmates pay model because you could potentially see a few orders back to back where you're just getting that really low minimum guarantee of only a few bucks. So where is this really going? What is DoorDash's agenda? What do they have to accomplish with this? Well, DoorDash has been successful so far because they provide the best possible service to their customers at the lowest price, and they have done a lot of great marketing to get their name out there, so they're the most widely adopted platform. They definitely want to keep drivers on board and they don't want to lose them to other services, but at the end of the day, if they keep the most customers on board, that means that they're getting the most total orders coming through, and drivers are going to have to use their platform because they need to get more orders at the end of the day. So what this really comes down to is it's about the customer. As Tony mentioned in the email, it's about the drivers and the customers. What he really means to say is it's about the customer, and at some point, if driver earnings take enough of a hit and there's a big enough outcry in the media, then bad PR gets out there, and this is bad for customers. Customers will leave the platform if they feel like it's taking advantage of drivers. So what Tony is trying to do here is just keep the media at bay so that customers don't leave the platform, and he's doing this by making small incremental announcements to kind of make it look like driver pay is improving. And like I said earlier, hopefully it actually is. But at the end of the day, as long as he keeps that media at bay and keeps customers on board, then he can kind of continue to undercut those other platforms until they can't afford to compete with DoorDash. And so this is why I think it's really important that Tony mentioned that 1% improvement every day. I think he's doing this to manage expectations of drivers because I don't think there's really going to be much of a change at all, and I don't think it's going to be very beneficial. Right now they have a model that's working. DoorDash is kind of crushing most of the competition, so they don't really want to change things. They want to do as little as possible to keep drivers satisfied here. Now, what I'd like to see is a pay model that's similar to Grubhub, or at least Grubhub's pay models in the past, which are really very transparent and very beneficial to drivers. Grubhub will give drivers a delivery pay. They'll also give you a mileage reimbursement per mile. Occasionally you'll get a bonus, and then you'll get 100% of the tip on top of that. This adds up to potentially really high payouts, and there's no minimum acceptance rate on the platform, so you can kind of just wait for the best orders if you want. Now, there's definitely incentive on the Grubhub platform to have a higher acceptance rate because you get to schedule blocks, and those blocks give you more orders. Unfortunately, while this pay model has been the best for drivers, I don't think that it's something that DoorDash is going to institute because, as we've seen lately, Grubhub has actually updated their pay model, and those small changes have actually made them look slightly more like DoorDash. So what we're seeing is that Grubhub, which does have a chance, they do control some share of the market. They're actually having to become more like DoorDash in order to remain competitive. Now, I wouldn't want to call this a race to the bottom on wages because hopefully there's enough intervention, there's enough laws put in place that kind of keep those minimums at a high enough level so that drivers can be making good money, after all of their expenses are factored in. But in some cases, it definitely is, because a race to the bottom on wages is going to provide the customer with the best possible experience. And as we've seen with the most successful business models, time and time again, customers are the most important. So what we need to do here is just, as drivers, as content creators, is continue to make our voices heard so that we can keep DoorDash in check as much as possible, because that's really going to be our best tool to kind of maintain those higher minimums and decent payouts for drivers. And it's definitely, without a doubt, that DoorDash has some metrics. They know exactly how little they can pay drivers and continue to keep drivers on the platform, continue to hire on new drivers to replace old drivers if they need to. So DoorDash is very aware of that. They know how much they need to pay us. For them, it's just, once again, it's a publicity thing. It's maintaining that decent image in the PR. They saw what happened to Uber with bad press, how it has really shaken up the company, and they don't want to see the same thing happen to them. So they're really walking a fine line right now. And what we need to do is continue to keep that pressure on them, to keep them on the right side of that line. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure that you subscribe to the channel down below to get more gig economy updates, and go ahead and hit that like button and show me a little bit of love.